Hello, everybody. My name is M2 Dave. One of your co hosts, and welcome to another edition of the podcast. I'm here with my co hosts, Crimson, Rio, and Tom Brady. Say hi, everybody.
What's good,
What's up,
everybody?
guys?
Today, guys, another very, very special guest. One of the premier streamers of the NRS community. Please follow him at MFSlayer on Twitter. Subscribe to him on Twitch, MFSlayer 2. Slayer, what a pleasure. Welcome.
Yeah, appreciate being
One of
here,
the Yomi
man.
gods.
I've missed y'all. Shout out to the scene. It's been so awesome, man. And I hell appreciate everyone, dude. This has been sick.
Yeah, real quick, Slayer's Twitch is it's MFSlayer underscore.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the correction.
You're
I'm sure everybody already knows he's one of the most popular Twitch channels in all of the NRS community. Uh, Props to him.
man, it's been a pleasure.
So Slayer, man, let's get started with the question. So first,
Yeah, let's do it.
my co-host and I kind of agreed to kind of focus on you maybe for 20, 30 minutes, and then we're going to talk about the game. Are you ready for that?
Hey, let's do it. Hell yeah.
All right, man. Okay, let's do it. So let's talk about one of the things that I think is most interesting about you is that you're one of the old school Diomi boys, right?
You shit.
And yeah, can you kind of talk about briefly about your fighting game history? Talk about what made you play fighting games and kind of also include like Yomi in that, because I would assume that was a huge part of your fighting game career.
Yeah, dude. Well, I can just I can talk a little bit about the journey of how we've even all came to this.
Yeah, please
Um,
do.
yeah, man, it's been awesome. But I started in 2011 actually with MK9, and I knew nothing about the competitive scene. I was actually playing like a lot of Gears of War at the time. And I ran into Dab on 360, like an MK9 ranked, and he beat me so bad. I was like, shit. So I messaged him like, hey, how are you so good? You know, you practice with people, what's up? And he ends up telling me about, offlines and that there's local scenes popping up everywhere. He's like, where do you live? And I was from SoCal, so he's like, yo, there's this tournament called EGP in Orange County, and he was like, you ever heard of Justin Wong? And dude, so I went on YouTube, and that's where I discovered like the world of competition. I started watching like all the gods at the time, Rio, DJT, Detroit Ballin, fucking, all the guys like Pig and 16-bit, and it was just so vast at the time, so many good folks. And I just got addicted, really. I was just on a mission to get better. And I wanted to go to a major, but I told myself until I placed at my local, I wasn't going to attend a major. So played for like a year, almost a year and a half, and placed top 3 at the local, and I'm going to SER 2013, my first major, and that's when I met everybody, dude, like Pig, just like everybody, and it was insane, honestly. And yes, ever since then, Injustice came out. I ended up getting fourth at Evo, and it just kind of sparked everything, really, just really in the scene now. And MKX came out, and that's when kind of life really changed. Like I had kind of been in it a minute. It was my third game, um, and I was actually working and going to school full time at the time. And it was the first tournament, which was Northwest Majors. And I ended up going out there like just on a whim too. It was like Thursday. They were like, "Hey, we're leaving out tomorrow if you want to like come down." So I ended up driving up with them, and by the grace of fucking God, I ended up placing second. And I got back on Monday, and then on Tuesday, that's when Yomi Reno Rax called me, the guy behind Yomi. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna be having these $1,000 locals every Tuesday. I got the house for you guys. I'm gonna be having Rio, DJT." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" So I ended up buying my own plane ticket out there. And this call was on Tuesday, so I kind of got myself together, like got a game plan for my family, told them, and then, dude, I got my shit together, and by Thursday I left to Atlanta. And you guys know the story from there, but it was just insane. Honestly, it was a big leap, and my family wasn't the most supportive, but I was young at the time. I'm still pretty young, but that was the time to do it. If I was ever just gonna go out there and just risk it all for the biscuit, like playing video games, and trying to be the best in the world, I don't regret a single minute of it, man. Gotta hang out with all them. Gotta have so many good times and play the fucking game and just like, be indulged in it for so long. Like, make some good ass memories. Like, live with some of the best players. Like, and throughout the time, to be honest, I think what kept me training so hard was like I had watched these guys growing up and shit, and while I was getting better, and I may have not felt like I was even on their level, you know. So it kind of just kept me like going so fucking hard. Like Rio, for instance, this fool had never even missed like a top 8, and in Justice One, like going into there, I would be like, "Yo, this fool Rio's coming over here," and it would even deter me in tournament. Like Rio had the mind game over me for a minute, even in like MKX majors. But dude, that's the type of shit that like pushed me pushed me to be great. And it's I've appreciated all of it, man. It's been great. Like no matter how it turns out from here, it's been cool.
Would you say, Slayer, that MKX in the time with Yomi was like your golden age, as they would describe, like the golden age of your fighting game career?
To be honest, I think that as time goes on, I feel like if we stay like focused and keep grinding, like whether it be in tournament or allocating your time in different places, like competition or content or community and whatnot, I feel like it's only gonna get better. Like to be honest, I feel like as the scene's been evolving into something new, it's been a different form of like awesomeness, And I just feel like, yeah, that was great in its own right, and I'm really glad that that all happened, and we really like I got the competition of it all. But times are changing, especially with like COVID and all that, and so I feel like it's evolving into something new. Like maybe that was my height of my tournament self, but who knows what's to come in the future with like the height of like this content shit or community wise. So I'm looking forward to it really. And I've been playing a lot, and since I've been having so much fun, I've honestly even been playing like better than I have in a long time. So who knows what's to even come like with the tournament future.
Well, that's
Slayer, I first remember you during MK9. When you remember when you were playing at those locals, there were what was it? It was like EGP.
Yeah,
With Tyrant, Big Boy. Yeah, I remember you played Cabal and Kalau. But I didn't really meet you until the first Injustice. You remember the first Evo? You were the person who put me in losers, dude. This dude, he grabbed the tree, completely obliterated me, and like popped off, and I was like, damn, dude. One thing I love about Slayer, though, is he takes his characters, like he puts time into them and really makes them shine. I really like what you did with from Kex with Kung Jin. Like, when everybody started dropping off him when he first got his nerfs, you stuck it out with him. You started making Shaolin working. Like, you were beating people like Sonic Fox. I love seeing stuff like that when people stick to a character and really make them shine.
I feel like you guys set the bar so fucking high. You guys are so good. Like, and you guys were using so many characters. I was like, and since you guys were more experienced, I felt like I really just had to learn Kung Jin. Like, since that was like the character I was like great with, like that was my shot to beat you motherfuckers. Like, there was no way I was gonna be switching characters. I wasn't that at the time. You guys were on a whole nother shit with that.
Yeah, but dude, you were putting work in. Like, you were, honestly, in my opinion, the best Kung Jin for most of MKX's life. Like, there was no other Kung Jin.
That's that character loyalty shit, like with Hayate and Robin and stuff. Like, you learn all the situations and the matches might be stupid, but I don't know. But see, you know that firsthand. Like, dude, how hard did you work with Goro, like to beat Jupiter that one time? You know what I mean? Like, that's
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, finding out a character to beat a different character,
and
thinking out how the matchup would play, and figure out like, okay, this character's good at, Jax is good at being up close, right? What is Goro good at MKX? Well, his pre-patch, he was insane up close. Safe armor launcher, pokes, command throws. Down one on poke was already 50-50. Down one command throw or down one launcher. It was that all the time. So just thinking, I'm like, dude, this character, if you have to fight Goro up close, like Jax, you're in for an annoying battle because Goro can hold his own up close.
hell yeah, you can. That was crazy. I literally remember the match. Like, I was studying it, dude. Your ass did jump off the interactable into a jump punch, and you had the super. That was OD.
Well, that's what you mentioned, and I'm gonna let Crimson here because he's the one I think who articulates the best. You mentioned the word involved, and when I talked to Crimson, you're on top of the list for that. And I like kind of Crimson go off on that, Crimson, if you will.
Well, yeah. So, what specifically did you want to talk about?
Well, you always mention how Slayer went from obviously one of the best players in the scene to also evolving as one of the best streamers in the scene. I don't think that's an easy transition.
Yeah, so I mean, Slayer, you and I kind of rapped about this a bit, but can you talk about like, because I think this applies to both like competing and playing, but a lot of people have this image of like, you get a name and then pretty much like whatever you try to do, like it's gonna hit. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna make it, you're gonna be successful. And I remember you talking through when you first started streaming, and even like earlier last year, that like wasn't the case, that you actually had to grind it out, you had to adapt, you had to like observe people and like figure out some new things in order to make it work. So yeah, I'm just curious like what your perspective is on that stuff you had to go through.
Like, I feel like it's been a real learning experience, and it's been awesome. Like the streaming thing, because when you know doing content, and especially when trying to do it like full time, like and really giving it a real earnest shot and treating it like a business, it just brought me in like a different light of like I'm like there's no giving up. You know what I'm saying? If your restaurant's out here and it's like you're starting a business and it's failing, like you adapt to the times. You keep trying different shit. So it just put me in the mindset to really just like keep it chugging. There's things I was doing that were gonna be hit. Some shit was gonna be missed, but dude, like going into content, especially like with some shit you love, like it's seamless. Like we put on the show, we're gonna be playing MK anyway. We love it, and if it works out, you know what I mean. But I feel like as far as like content creation, especially in the MK scene, because dude, we've all been doing it for like a long time. We've all been in the game. We've seen like a lot of different shit, but I feel like the difference is people can feel when like you legit just like enjoy the fucking game. You know what I mean? And I feel like like that's been the great thing like with this whole when I talk about the evolution and all that. um I know the Pro Series didn't bring like much money into it, but it also like what it did was it brought a sense of like you're playing for the pride again. Back then in Injustice, when we were grinding our lives away to learn these crazy ass matchups, and we were going out to these hard ass 100-man tournaments where it was just all nothing but sweats in every fucking pool on every path, and it was legit just for the love of the game. And I feel like we're getting a lot closer to that again, because I don't know if it's a mix of online or if it's a mix of the pro tours or the content creators really stepping their shit up and having a lot of events people could get mixed into to get better. Um, I really can't like pinpoint it, but I just feel like it's a cool ass wave going on right now, and we just all gotta keep it up. We can't be deterred, dude. Like we just gotta keep trying shit. Um, and even though I had come in like done good off tournaments and shit, like dude, I had been streaming for 3 years like already before this, and this is like right now is like the least people know me for like being good at tournaments. You know what I mean? So if that logic were to apply, that would have been like long gone for now. Now people know me for 65th and 33rd. But they also just can tell when you love the game, and I just feel like we all just need to keep it up. We're all doing great.
So,
Well, yeah, go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry. No, no,
yeah.
you
So
go
I
ahead.
have a question. Something is obviously with your success now as a streamer, um, and I want you to elaborate on this a little bit. A lot of people, I think, that want to get into competitive fighting games, and obviously you'd want to transition into streaming and content creating as well, because obviously if you got to try to make a career out of it, you can't just rely on winnings unless you're maybe like one or two people. You have to move on to the content creation part, but it's a lot harder. Talk to me about someone like you. You were a competitor, one of the best players in the world. Uh, what it's like, because I feel like all these wins, and like Crimson Shadow said, people think, what, I was winning, I was doing well, I made a name for myself, and that doesn't always transition into instant success in content creation. It's literally like it's an entirely different thing. Um, and like you said, people now know you now for 65th, 33rd. So, I mean, talk to me about how you took from being a competitor into, I guess, the point where you realized, like I realized, without these people, like it doesn't really matter how much you win, and nobody that doesn't really get remembered. What remembers is you'll get remembered when people, and it's the people of the community that really kind of give you the name, more so than results, etc. So talk to me about how you were able to turn from being a top player to a content creator, and some of the challenges you faced in that transition.
I think where to start off is like being a competitor, especially with how things are ran. I know it's a new age with like online and stuff, but we've all been through it. Back then, you go and you place out a tournament, and what you get months later, you get the money, or like you're just waiting on it, and you don't know, like you're not gonna be able to eat, right after that. Like, so being a competitor, in which we've tried, like we were, blinded by passion and just like sacrificed way too much um, to compete and be out there and just like spending money we didn't have, and but I feel like I feel like all that, it just kind of teaches you to like appreciate like what we have now, because the reason why we had to do it back then is because online wasn't good. We did have to get our money together and go to our local every week to try to get better. I did have like I wasn't able to just go online and look at the best player like Detroit ball, and which is like let's say Rewind Now, and be like, hey, can I get some coaching sessions and level up, like, and ask you questions? No, I had to go to my local Wednesday night fights and fucking pick Alex Valle and Snake Eyes Brain, and now like I feel like the transition was just like seeing the need for like what I yearned for when I was trying to get better, like the direct access to somebody who's been in it for a while, who you can just like pick their brain and it not be a nuisance, you not have to like necessarily spend like a bag to just like chill and talk with like some of these players. So, and I don't even see myself as like necessarily like top player, the best fucking a god, like I never have. But nowadays, like I've been in it for a while and I've been through a bunch of situations. I have placed in tournaments, so I feel like that the transition was it wasn't seamless. Like I've been streaming for like 4 years now, since 2017. Um, and I was trying, like, dude, I was doing it 4 hours a day at times, like doing it part time while I was working and going to school full time, like trying to make it work. But you can't go full time at anything unless like you work up to it. So up until the point to where I was able to build like we were able to build enough like a stream family and like get enough support to pull back. We slowly but surely did, and kept grinding, slowly but surely pulling back. Just how people allocate time in anything. And but yeah, like when you talk about the transition, it wasn't seamless. Like, dude, the transition to get like trying to get better, it's fucking tough work, and to try to be the best at anything is tough fucking work. But it's a video game, dude, and it's fun. We love Mortal Kombat. So at the end of the day, whether it be training to get good, or even if you train your ass off and you go to the tournament and you put on a good show and still lose, like, dude, we're playing Mortal Kombat. Like, we have this whole community of people we've met, and like people all over the world, literally, not even just the nation. Like, so at the end of the day, like no matter what happens, I think it's just easy to appreciate. It really is. Like even all you guys, man. Like, dude, I was watching you guys since I was like fucking little kids. Like you guys in this call, like Tom and Rio and shit, and
Slayer
Dave's been
actually
in here
put
a
money on
fucking
me
minute.
against somebody else from California. Slayer actually was the only one who put money on me. That was it was like a whole room, and then it was Slayer sitting next to me talking to me. It was like we
No,
were
it's
the only
because
two on that island.
there wasn't even 0.1% of people who were voting for Tom versus Rio. I'm like, literally not one of you guys. I was like, all right, I got to delve on Tom. Like, who's in? And I bet against somebody versus Theo. And when Tom beat him, bro, Theo never forgave me for that shit.
No, but yeah,
That is so
that's one of the
awesome.
first times. I think that is the first time I actually got to sit down and talk with you. I always heard about you in MK9, but at that point, I wasn't. I think I was working on the Injustice guy. I didn't go to some of those tournaments. And that was the first time I actually got to. I saw you at Evo, but this is the first time I actually got to sit down and chill with you and everything. And you've been. I have one more question, and I think this. I don't think people realize, because it's an era where online gaming, you can play online, but you really were part of that last era in the netcode is absolutely garbage. So what you basically did was you bet on yourself. You took a gamble. You basically packed up. Reno gives you the call. You pack up. I remember Rio and I watching first. King is going to this Yomi place. We're like, what is this, right? And he's whatever. And then a week later, we see you're there and whatever. And you basically packed up and left your family, your friends, everything behind. You basically took a gamble on yourself. Uh, Take me through that decision. And like, obviously you faced hardships at Yomi as well. Take me through the decision to leave, and how hard was it to just stick it out when the thing has got rough? Did you ever have second thoughts, think of going back home? And what gave you that strength to stick it out and keep grinding and keep going?
So, like, that's actually a really good question. I feel like from the jump, when I first like learned about the scene and I like first laid out my first video I ever seen, I literally can remember it. It was watching CD Junior and Maxter play in tournament at like one of their locals, and this was like like barely like a month or two after I learned about the competitive scene, and I was just watching every fucking EGP Timer video on YouTube because he was the best in our scene, and I was trying to beat him. Uh, and and dude, I seen CD Junior play against CD Senior or Maxter, one of them, and he staggered his string and he blocks his poke and he punishes it. And I'm thinking, oh my fucking gosh, like this dude is so next level. Ever since then, dude, I was addicted to the scene. Like I really was just addicted to like trying to get better, and I was viewing these people's minds as just gold, and I just admired it really. So um, putting in hella time, and when it came down to like we would literally like in like me, Tyron, and all the local buds would just like dream about like some shit like Yomi, you know. And when I met Reno in 2013 or 2012, and he at NCR, and he just like telling me about this dream. All this time later, when it kind of came down to it, like dude, stopping working and like going to school, like I know I can go back and do that any fucking time, you know. Like leaving the friends and family and the scene in like my hometown was like a little rough, especially since like the only one who was really like down for the cause was like my mom. Like my dad was like, "Yo, you're really gonna like stop working? Like you just got yourself a car and like you got yourself a watch. Like you take your mom out for lunch and shit." And in my head, it was just like, of course, like this is what I have like dreamed about, you know. So that's why I feel like whenever Yomi was great, you know, and it was like one of the best times ever, and just some of the best experiences, and just learned so much. But when it came down to like when it all was said and done, and everyone was going home, you know, because whatever happened happened. Um, it was almost like, damn, am I really gonna go back after all this time and just like, hey guys, like I'm back, you know, and just kind of it just kind of seemed like as if I failed, you know what I mean? And so I think that's what kind of kept me in Georgia, and so I got myself a little job out here and just like kept it chugging through MKX. Um, and I'm really glad I made that decision though, because even though we went through our struggles and whatnot, even throughout that time, like through MKX and shit, was kind of down bad trying to make it happen in Atlanta. Um, Injustice came out, Injustice 2, and ESL hit me up. I got to go home after like a year and shit. They flew me to Chicago instead of Atlanta, and then, you know, I ended up getting third on some crazy shit and won a bunch of money and didn't go back to work. Ended up getting second at CEO. And, you know, it just kind of like not knowing how it's all going to play out, to then just like having all that and then just being able to get sponsored and travel to the pro tour. It was just like, you know, I think at the end of the day, like you make those sacrifices, and even if shit doesn't work out, it's like, you know, at least I fucking gave it an earnest shot. But it's it feels so much better, you know. It's like well deserved, and you can kind of just like rest easy knowing that you fucking grinded for that, you know. It wasn't just given to you. So I think it's all been worth it, even if it didn't work out the way it did, like with this whole streaming shit now, and like having a cool ass fam, and really being able to like push the scene I love so much. I feel like it still would have all been worth it, you know, even if we were going back to just like had to go home and whatnot. It was just the experience, and dude, we met so many folks, and I feel like if everybody looks at it like that, like how can you even have toxicity in the fucking scene, dude? We're all here just like brought together like by a damn miracle, like that we're all here, and online's great, and we're able to do what we do now. It's crazy. The day and age is fucking wild.
You sound like a more mature, uh, a more, if I may say, educated, a more informed Slayer than the Slayer who visited Ohio with my king, that one time. And I don't want to talk about the specifics, you know, what happened that one night, but for God's sake, but um, talk to me about, because you mentioned something very, very interesting to me. Like you talk about streaming, not that passion isn't involved, it is, but you talk about it like almost like an entrepreneur. Like this is a business. I'm trying to, you know, like I understand I love this, but I'm also trying to make sure that I make some money from this. And from what I hear, you're very successful, and God bless you. I'm glad you are, and I hope more people are. Can you
Man,
give
I appreciate it.
new, you know, new content creators like 2 or 3 pieces of advice that they should follow in order to be as successful as you have been?
Dude, to be honest, whenever I first started giving it a shot, and I really you know, like really wanted to, because I've always wanted to be able to. I feel like when I started trying to stream, it wasn't with the intention of like, oh, I need to like make money streaming. It was more just like, dude, I need to figure out a way to like not only like express my love for the scene, but like do that, be able to accelerate it. But you know, in order to do it, of course, you have to make money. You know what I mean? So,
Of course.
but I really went back and watched a lot of the top guys, and I seen why people support them, and it's because they have a family there. They feel like they're getting something back from it. And like, dude, I picked up on that really early by doing a lot of research and watching a lot of these a lot of these big streamers, and a lot of these streamers who really interact with their community and make them feel a part of something, man. And that was just like, I'm so glad that I ended up really buckling down and learning that early, because it changed a lot for me, man. Like, I feel like when people feel like you're trying to do something, but not only for their own sake, but because you love something and you also want to be a part of it yourself. Like, that was a game changer, man. And I feel like the biggest piece of advice I can give up and coming content creators is, you pay attention to those people in your chat. They're your family, like they're your core. And luckily enough, like, I'm playing the game I love, like, and I'm not like, a crazy multi streamer, which God bless those guys. One day I'll get there. And we bring together a community of people who love MK. Like, how can, like I keep saying, like, how can you come into a scene and have a family of folks like this and it be a negative thing? So you talk to those people, you learn about them, you share common interests. Like, dude, these are these are folks who love MK. Like, even if you just randomly met any of these folks, like, even if we didn't know each other, we can sit here and bullshit about this thing that we love. Like, you know and I feel like because I've kind of kept that mindset and really have loved the scene and do want to see it level up, and just get to the place where I know we can be. It's just kind of been it's been like, I don't want to say easy, but it's been fun to like try to put all these events together and just like push the bar on what I feel could be done for our scene. Like, MK wise, like, I just put out this magazine, kind of just just plotting a whole bunch of shit and just like trying, and people are with it because I feel like we all love MK, and that's what brought us together. And if everyone can kind of just focus on that instead of all the other bullshit, I think we'll be where we need to be in no time. Honestly, we just need to keep it the fuck up.
Crimson, when I talked to Crimson private, that's kind of what he said about you really pay attention to what your subscribers want, to what the people want, and you deliver. You know, you deliver to a high degree, and you've done an excellent job. With that. So I kind of see what you're saying, but I would like to switch gears here and ask you before we go. Talk about the game. I want to ask you, like, since you stream a lot, you know a lot of the players that we don't. Can you give us like this? Maybe I don't want to say a handful, but if you want to go there, you can. Maybe like 3 to 5 players you should think people need to pay attention to because they may have an impact in the future.
Yeah, so the first one I want to give a shout out to is Izzy. His name is Izzy FGC. You can follow him on Twitter and whatnot. He's actually a 14-year-old kid, and like, he's out here like playing so well, like, already,
That's a RoboCop player, right? Is he?
Yeah, he also plays a
Okay.
bunch of characters.
Okay.
But insane, and that's super cool. You see that, and that's the future. So I always try to hit them up and like get them on the stream and just get them in sets and just involved with shit, because that's just awesome. Like, that's the future right there. So super shout out to Izzy. Let me think. Some players, I don't want to leave everybody out.
Yeah, by the way, Izzy just made a huge splash in our 2v2 the other week. Like, for a kid that young to play against players like he's playing against, including these guys who are really playing like every week, like Unjust and stuff like that, it's pretty scary. And even I think Tweety, even though Tweety ended up ultimately beating him in grand finals, he was also impressed. So, yeah, just to give some context for why this kid is scaring people at 14. But go ahead, Slay.
Seriously. And yeah, so I mean, there's a handful of folks who have been really on the level up, and have been like playing on the stream and whatnot since months ago, and just all the time just putting themselves in all these tournament sets. Like Dr. T, a Kano player, he's super sick, getting way better. Dylan Lloyd, the Spotify guy, follow him on everything. He's a Rambo player, and the level up has just been immense. These people are not running from competition, and it's just like super paying off. I just love that shit. Like they don't care. They're out here, They'll play the sets. And yeah, so shout out to Dr. T, Dylan Lloyd, Tommy Izzy. Yeah, that's probably my top 3 that I shout out right now.
All right. Are you ready for the controversial questions?
Let's go.
Hold on, before we get to the controversial questions,
Go ahead, Tom.
I don't know why. I've always wanted to. I mean, I guess I find it funny because I remember thinking like this in the very early 2000s of me competing, and I mean, back then we were kind of cavemen, and how we thought about stuff and whatever. Like, obviously, gaming is a lot more of a profession now than it ever was. It is only getting bigger. But I found it funny that the FGC, in a lot of ways, clings to one of the most Stone Age philosophies ever, and I want your thoughts on this. So I'm watching other competitive things, not a fighting game, and all these top places. Obviously, even only one person can win, but even outside of the top 8 as we do it, into like maybe the top 32, etc. In fighting games, we have a very Ricky Bobby thing where if you're not first, you're last. You could go to a 10,000 man tournament, and if you placed ninth, you are just as good as the player who went 0-2 in their pool. And for some reason, in fighting games, we still cling to this, right? And as a competitor, it's a really crappy feeling. Like when you get ninth, you'd much rather say, "Dude, I just wish I got last," because the motto is ninth and last is the same thing. This idea that in going to a 5, 6, 700,000 man tournament and being one round away from top 8 means you are the difference between being really good or the worst player in the tournament. So talk to me how you feel about that, being someone who, like pretty much all of us here who have competed have had that feeling before. And what you think
Okay.
about how that ideology is still upheld today.
See, like, I recently made a tweet about this because I felt like that for like a long time, but that's because I feel like fighting game is a one-on-one. It's hard to not compare yourselves like to others because obviously you're playing like an opponent. It's your mind versus their mind. But the message that I'm trying to push nowadays is like, yo, you be the best you that you can be with the time allotted that you have because, we all have a different amount of time and sacrifice that we can put into playing the shit. Different amount of experience, life experience, like tendencies, whether I'm patient or more aggressive and you're more offensive. And I feel like up until recently, like even in my competitive life, like it took me later on to not think like that because in essence, it was all the same guys like being out here for all these years, like playing against each other, competing, and of course you want to be the best. We talk our shit, but you like that's the thing that gets people so deterred is like when they start like really falling into that like, oh, if I'm not like the best, I'm last. But like the bar is so high, you know what I mean? And there's people are so good and still evolving. So, yeah, man, I really feel like people need to just like with their time, the time they have and the sacrifice they can make, like just push themselves to the best they can be, and like don't compare yourself to Sonic Fox. I'm sorry, like we're not fucking Sonic Fox. Like we try hard and we can get the best we can, and at our heights we perform, and dude, we all have like in this call.
Yeah.
And dude, that's just I feel like we just gotta kind of gotta look at it like that, especially nowadays.
Yeah,
Especially
I
as like
just okay,
older
sorry.
folks like y'all with families and shit. You know what I mean? Like you guys just don't have like you're not gonna be not having food on the table to be like competing. COVID obviously is what it is right now, but it can't be like it was back then, dude.
Yeah, I see a lot of
Unfortunately.
young players and they're doing really well, and when they don't make top 8, they get right on the bubble. They feel like, wow, I'm the worst player, I'm trash. And I noticed that I'm like, well, you're young. You played in this online tournament that had 400 people. You were one round away from top 8. You played really well. You did really well. And I see today players like, oh, but I'm 9th, so I played like crap. I'm trash. I'm garbage. And I really think fighting games is like the only place where everyone is like, yeah, you should be like trash, dude. You got 9th. You're the worst player there. 9th and last is the same thing. And I think it's about time. I think we're a lot more evolved now that there's a lot of good players out here, right? There's a lot
Dude,
more
it's
than
no
8 good
longer the
players.
I'm going to, there's no longer the, oh, I'm not going to the tournament to make friends. Like, dude, these are, yes, you are. We're going there because these are the people who love it. Like, we have to just like
Exactly. Yeah.
evolve from that barbaric mentality that we've all like, and we're all guilty of it because guess what? We're passionate and there's no, like, there, it's nothing to be sorry about. But dude, it's a new day and age. We have to like cater to the people who are up and coming. Like, dude, they wanna ask Tom and Rio like what they feel about this, certain things. Not to feel like, oh, I'm not ever going to place a top 8 at a tournament, so why would these fools even talk to me? Like, that's not too, nobody wants to feel like that. We just love MK. That's it. So I feel like, but I do feel like we're on the move with like how the whole scene is going nowadays and what online has given us. It's been greatness.
Well,
Yeah, Slayer, you
Absolutely.
were pretty much there for those days when we were playing NRS games during the early days, and a lot of people would look over and they'd be like, "Look at these people! They're playing games like MK9 and Justice. Haven't they ever heard of Street Fighter, Tekken? They would put the games down and say the games are a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah.
You need to play real fighting games." It's and I'm glad to see that that we've kind of outgrown that. We've kind of become our own community, and we don't have to play these other games to be
Yeah.
considered a real game.
I really think the MLGs really put that to rest because even
But also, guys, our scene was young. We were young compared to
it
those
was
fools.
young, which is why it was such a big deal what we did because all through MK9, as the NRS scene was restart, the MK scene was restarting basically under the NRS umbrella, and even when we kind of got our game at like a pro circuit, like to Rio's point, a lot of the fighting game world was like, why waste their time putting Mortal Kombat there, right? Like the people are only showing because of money. If they put any other game there, that's like more mainstream and had that same money, bro, you wouldn't want to know how many people were there. And then I got put to the test when they did put the newest fighting game out. I think it was Tekken Tag 2. It had just got released, and we doubled them up. And if they hadn't have kept capping us, we'd have quadrupled them up. And it just really shows like, from the very beginning, that we weren't just this scrubby Mortal Kombat scene who was just barely limping along. It was a scene that wasn't going anywhere, and we're only like 10 times bigger today, and we're only going to continue to grow.
And I feel like there's some positive stuff that you can take from the old school mindset, right? Like, it's true, right? You shouldn't beat yourself up to the point where you're depressed, don't want to play anymore because you got ninth or whatever,
Worst feeling ever.
And yeah, I mean, and I think there was something about that was toxic, but the reason behind it makes sense, and the reason behind it is applicable now because I think now the temptation goes the other way, right? You have a lot of younger players who can get visibility by playing on a stream, playing on an exhibition, beating somebody in a set. Now it's out there for the whole world to see, right? You can put it on YouTube, thousands of people see it. And so I think sometimes there's a little bit of a tendency for people to feel like, yo, I made it. People know me. They know my name. I'm a top player now. And so I think it's still good to keep a little of that mentality where even if you don't beat yourself up at every moment, instead of being like, I've arrived, I'm here, you can be like, okay, like, what's the next step? How can I get better? Like you were talking about, like, me versus myself, you versus yourself. Like, I'm this good today, but next week, I don't want to be where I am today. I want to be so much better, And I wonder if we can still, especially like for you guys, right, that are like veterans of the scene, if we can kind of bring a little bit of that back to say, hey, look, don't beat yourself up, but at the same time, don't stop here. Don't look at these guys and be like, I can never be there. Like light a fire under yourself and be like, no, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to see how far I can go.
Yeah. I remember that one combo breaker, the first one for MKX. And I remember Ed Boon, I think it was like 400 people, like 500, I think it was like 5 something. And Ed Boon, I was talking about, how terrible, last place, whatever. And Ed Boon was like, whatever, you got nothing. I was like, Ed, ninth and last is the same thing. And he looked at me like I was stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Ninth and last is the same thing. But I feel like in reality, like you said, beating ourselves up, that's kind of ridiculous. And I do feel like, there are so many good players now to basically narrow it down to there's 8 good ones and then there's the trash players. That's kind of like, that logic is kind of like stupid now because there's just so many good players. But at the same time, you don't want to fall into the trap of, man, I got a little bit of shine. and now I'm a premier guy. You always want to
Right.
keep that hunger there. You know what I mean? So you don't want to keep that hunger there by just beating yourself into the ground, but you want to let even success on a small scale continue to fuel you as opposed to fill you up.
Well, guys, well said. Very very good discussion about about the past as well as the present. Slayer, are you ready? Things are gonna go downhill from here. Are you ready? So,
Yeah, I've been trying to dampen myself because I have a lot of juicy questions I want to ask Slayer, but I don't want to kind of kill the vibe.
if I may go first here, I'll open up the discussion, and you guys, my co-hosts, can feel free to comment. So there's an elephant in the room, and this is the elephant in the room that I have been seeing. I'm sure my co-host will agree with me. We talk about the passion of the game, but the reality that I see, it's one of probably the most polarized game that I've seen since MKX. A lot of top players are demanding an overhaul, something different, including Zyphox, including Dragon. Um, I don't know about. I'm not sure about Ninja Killer's opinion, but you get the point. What do you think about the game, first of all, and second of all, does the game need an overhaul? Go ahead, please.
So me personally, I feel like throughout all the time it was the balance of I need more defensive options or I need offensive blah blah blah. But this game has a really good balance of it. I feel like, and the thing I feel like everybody like Dragon and Sonic, they've been a lot of these folks. It's because dude, they haven't given us anything in 4 months. Like there's nothing to look forward to as far as tournament wise. Like you cannot tell me this game is as dry as the end of Injustice 2, but there were still these motherfuckers out there playing it. You know why? Because the tournaments were out there, people were traveling. Like, this game is great, but the lack of updated content from NRS, as well as like the lack of tournaments, I feel like that's the thing where people are just like caught in this in between. But there's a couple things about the game I changed myself. Like, I'm not saying it's the perfect fighting game, but it has so much fucking potential. It's the best one we've gotten out of all the NRS games so far. You guys can't disagree with that one. This game is fucking good.
Well,
Yeah, I just want to say one thing to compare this game to the previous NRS games, like in terms of like content wise.
yeah.
MKX had less characters than we currently have, and so did Injustice 2 for this game.
Mm-hmm.
MKX had a total of 9 characters, and Injustice 2 had a total of 8 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Currently in this game, I think we have 10 or 11 DLCs. So we've gotten more content in terms of characters than the last 2 NRS games.
I don't have too much to say on this matter. If you watch my videos, whatever. I personally, the one video I want to make most of all is the video where I blow myself up as the biggest idiot in the world who said it was never going to happen. It'd be the great. I look forward to the day when I can rip myself in half and just totally trash myself as being an idiot on YouTube for being a moron who thought XYZ would never happen. And I hope I get the chance to do that. And like Slayer said, we all see the potential. It's there, obviously, because even people that say they don't like this or that, we look at it, we talk about it every day because we're still passionate about it. We want to play it. At the end of the day, I don't think there's an NRS game that more people want to play more than I've seen this, which is why we're so passionate on one side of this or the other.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Slayer, we have to ask, what would you change then? Because a lot of people, I've seen YouTube comments on Reddit, comments on Test Your Might, comments on Twitter. Many suggestions are out there. What would you change about the game if you could? If you could narrow it down to maybe 3 or 4 things or so.
So the first thing I would address, like the thing that irks me on the daily, is the meter system. So I actually had replied to one of the Raiden players named Patient Impulse that's in the scene nowadays. To one of his tweets talking about meter and how he feels like it should be back like the old way where you build meter from like hitting people on block. But then the zoners, you know how that went. So we were just talking about it, and then KDZ actually came out of nowhere and made a super good point.
Damn.
He literally brought it back like to a time before me, like before I was even in the scene a decade ago. And he said that MK is the only 2D game where you build no meter from blocking. And because I feel like there really was no like right thing. Like, do you give the zoners the advantage by making it to where you build the meter, or now how it is like, I could just waste all my meter as Jackie and then just chill out while it builds back up and don't even have to work for it. And the thing is, it's building back like generally at the same rate. But dude, there's no reason why Scarlet meter should be building back the same as Joker's or like Bonds. They're not even hitting generally for the same offensively, nor do they have the same defensive options. So I feel like that's like the big thing that I would change really. Like, I don't have many complaints, but I feel like that's where I would
There's a
go with
lot of
that.
depth in meter management as well. There have been a lot, and you've played plenty of people who did really well, but at the end of the day, when they needed the resource, they just didn't have it, and they weren't able to build it to have it when they needed it. And that's a big part of fighting games,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like that does take out, at least some more added depth that could be in the game.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, it really. Sorry, go ahead.
no,
Sir.
that's just my. I was gonna say that's just my take on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it really depends on the game because if you think about it, a lot of the previous NRS games, the reasons why a lot of them you didn't build meter on block was because imagine you're playing like against a power zoner like Kenshi or a character from Injustice and they're building meter when you're defending while they're out zoning and controlling neutral. It'd be overkill.
Yeah,
But I do want to say I do kind of agree with you that if they're gonna do something, I don't know if they're gonna like actually bring back the old meter system for this game because they would have to change a lot of characters to balance around that. But what they could do is they could have characters have different timers. Like for example, if Jackie uses a bar to do a leap, instead of it come back in 10 seconds, they can make it come back in 30 seconds, That way it's different for every character.
exactly, or like something like that, just to change it up from how it is like right now. Like, dude, Shao Kahn's nothing should be coming back the same like as anybody's. Like with Shao Kahn doing what he's doing right now. Like, at least they can tweak that by a character basis.
Exactly. Yeah, so for Scarlet Shao Kahn, for example, let's say Shao Kahn uses a bar to launch you, right?
Comes
They
back
can
way
make it so
faster.
the bar comes back in 5 seconds,
Or make it to where like if he's not gonna have as many opportunities to hit you offensively, then maybe the defensive, the life buff wasn't enough. Maybe his offensive bar needs to come back. Maybe he needs to get twice as many breakaway chances, or 40% more than you do.
Yeah, so it's pretty flexible. They just have to address every character separately
Specifically,
instead of
but
trying
dude,
to
they
make
do
it
that
global.
already with Street Fighter Seth. Like, his health is like drastically different than the rest of the
Exactly,
cats.
dude. That's the one thing NRS needs more of.
Yep.
They need to make characters different the way they play the
Exactly.
game.
Like,
Like the whole health thing, they have the right idea, but it needs to be more dramatic.
Drastically.
Like Shao Kahn should have way more health than Setron. It should be like night and day difference, like
it's
almost
because
twice as much.
how many times does he get to hit you versus how many times you're going to get the opportunity to hit him with like his gaps in his moveset. Same with Scarlet. Like, they need to be like, but
Exactly.
But-
And Slayer, this brings me to my next question. I want to ask you, and I want your honest opinion, because I watch your stream whenever I can on my phone. And how do you feel about Melina? Like, how do you think she is? What's your honest opinion about her?
my god!
Because I've been seeing a lot about Melina, and dude, every week she's going lower and lower on the tier list, and it's gotten to the point where Shao Kahn being the worst character in the game is old news now. Like, the people that are currently playing the game, they feel that Melina is actually worse than Shao Kahn.
That's
Her and Rambo are below
You
Shao
got to use the
Kahn.
saying everyone loves of us. What does Melina need, Rio? They love it. They love the saying when we use it.
Yeah, I want to ask Slayer. Slayer, what do you think Melina needs? Or I want your opinion. Do you think Melina's
check
viable?
this out. Check this out. Melina is like the top example of why they need to obviously that they need to rework some things. Like Melina, for instance, right? They gave her whole command grab that breaks armor, but how the fuck does she get damage? As soon as you roll them, they instantly break away. There's nothing that you can do, right? So, like, that's just right away, right then and there. Like, not only could she not combo you because you instantly break away every time she rolls you, there's nothing you can do about it to even anti-break them. Yeah, you just like can't even use your armor break or get your damage. Like, it's flawed, man. It's flawed. Like, I've been using her, and she's a pretty good run and gun character, but I just feel like that's just one of the reworks that they need to do. Like, Shao Kahn, and just some of these characters, like even as far as like character limitations, like Cetrion's teleport being one slot, while and it's way better than these other characters' teleport that's 2 slots. Like, it's just some obvious shit that they just need to fix.
Let me ask
Like-
you this. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
I know, and that was literally like
Okay.
like my end of it. Like, there's just like some obvious things that they're just like, maybe it's just because they're not in there because of COVID or whatnot, but just need some addressing, some reworks, not even nerfs or
Yeah,
buffs.
so for Melina, a good tweak would be like making it so you know how Shao Kahn launches you, you have to hold his arm break before you're able to break, kind of like that, but for Melina.
Or give her an
If she
option,
rolls
like
you,
if she holds down, at least she'll get the splat to like pop you up. I mean, to pop you up if you break,
Yeah.
but then won't get the combo. But right now she has no
or make
option.
it so you can't, or make it so you can't break away after way late after the roll hits you, so that way she could always go for the guaranteed armor break.
Exactly. Like, dude, it's a or something like that. It's just
Yeah, see, those are very, very small tweaks that can change characters like crazy.
I have a question though.
This
So
gets
how
a-
do you?
Go
I
on.
want to know how. I want to know how you feel about. So we bring up Melina, and you brought up the Cetrion one slot, but a lot of what helps characters like Cetrion is that a lot of other characters, they have a lot of moves that are default that they don't have to equip, or they equip a move that's one slot and it does a bunch of different things without having to equip slots 2 and 3. Melina, a lot of her base moves, how do you feel about them being, or that they should be default? Like she should be able to do straight psi, low psi, air psi, and air telekick without actually having to equip these moves.
see that brings me into a whole new realm. Like with this game, I feel like you know how they've been doing these three variations per character. So they've been spreading them out thin to begin with. So I felt like
Sure.
in the beginning of this game, they put out the three variations that they found were the most solid, and did the tournament thing. Like they felt like that was a good route to take. But then they switched it up and did, oh, now you can do, you can put whatever you want on there. So I felt like they switched gears, like they literally went on a different track, but it wasn't thought through all the way, and that's okay. But I feel like just like those other little small tweaks, they also need to adjust that. Like there's no reason why certain moves should be banned, certain moves should be the same, doing the same type thing, but are costing more slots than others. Like they really just need to sit the fuck down and think it through. And like small adjustments would make the world a difference. Unlocking because you're already spreading these characters out thin by doing the three variation systems. But then they unlocked everything and now shit's banned or you can't equip certain things. So it's just like
Sure.
they like since the beginning we've had shackles on us. Like they took off only one, but we're still limited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Rain's another example. Like I
If
was
you
watching
these
Outworld TV
characters aren't
today.
complete.
I'm sorry, God.
Oh no, I was just saying these characters aren't complete. Like you can't even put them together completely because you only have three, little slots. Like you're only playing a certain part of your character, and that's I don't know how to really go about that because they only limit it to three slots, and there's so many moves you can create so many character archetypes with those three slots, but I don't know. I just
Yeah.
that's a different one.
I was watching Outworld television today, and K7 was playing. He uses a lot of Rain. Denzel, I did Diddle Dome. I was watching him play Rain, and the question the chat asked was, why is it that Rain, for example, has to equip Edenian forces to be able to do base moves such as his armor break in the air, or just in general his combo ender, which is the bubble in the air, or moves in the air, whereas Cetrion has the default move, Hell's Wrath, and doesn't need to equip anything extra to be able to do it from the ground or airborne. And the same thing to Melina. Like they're like, well, why? Wouldn't it just be a little better? Wouldn't it help these characters at least a little bit to give them a little bit more depth if you just allow them to do some moves they already have without having to? Katana's another one. She has, I guess they call the move Ground War or whatever they call it, but it's already possible airborne. And to do it grounded, the exact same move she already has while airborne takes a slot. And it's like, why? And that's the kind of weird thing. And I'm not sure why they did it. Maybe it's because if they remove 2 or 3 moves to then add moves, new animation, whatever that is, more of an overhaul type patch when you start adding 2 or 3 moves in the game for a character. But yeah, there's just too many moves, and I do think more options are better.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
And if I may, and if I may add to Tom's argument, it's difficult to play the game when it's so watered down. Especially for me, I'm a huge zoning fanatic because you have played me in the past, and I even tried to make it work in MKX, considering the game was still like play characters like Deadshot, Deathstroke, Zod, Freddy, and then to try to play RoboCop in this game.
You OGs are thrown off because there's not like because they've spread these characters so thin with how they thought they were gonna do the variation system. Now they're letting it roam free, but the character archetypes have been drowned out in the midst. Like there's what happened to trap characters or like grapplers or zoners traditionally. You know, like we really don't have that in this game.
So it's like a new generation of fighting games that kind
In a
of.
s and I feel like that's what they were going for with like, oh, you know, you can kind of do your own thing and make up your own kind of style that you want to play these characters, but you can't do that while having shackles. Like you can't. It's either you got to let us go and let us fly free, or you got to fucking actually just be like, hey, you know, these are gonna be the tournament variations. Like you can't just pick and choose. Like, oh yeah, no, go ahead, Cedric could have everything, but guess what? This one's for Tom. We're gonna fucking ban Sub-Zero's ice puddle. But go ahead, Cedric could have a one slot teleport. Like what? Like,
Yeah,
dude, let us roam free. Let us roam free.
Yeah, this is a really good topic because you have to think about it. Slayer, it kind of started with MKX, right? Because before that, the most diverse NRS game we've ever had was Injustice 1.
Yep.
The characters in Injustice 1
Yep.
were radically different, like from night and day difference. And then with MKX, they kind of... I'm not sure if they listened to a certain group of players that didn't like certain playstyles or they had a new vision. But since MKX, they kind of started branching the games to play in a certain way and other characters couldn't really bend that. And then with Injustice 2, they even did that. They made Injustice 2 vastly less superior than Injustice 1 was. I mean, vastly less diverse than Injustice 1 was.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're kind of continuing this trend.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of worries me. Going into the next game, Injustice 3 or MK12, are they going to get rid of mid command grab? Because right now people are saying that breaks the rules of the game.
That's a big complaint, actually.
Like, what else? What else is going to get removed to not exist? You know?
Yeah, the mid command grab. That's Rio's point. I hear that a lot. Like you always hear this, and you hear it all the time, Slayer. Why does this character have a mid command grab? Mid command grab is so stupid, you know. And it just seems like whenever there's a big enough uprising, NRS says, you know what? They didn't like zoning. They didn't like this. Now they want more offense. But now that everyone's up close all the time, this mid command grab is becoming a problem. So, you know, are they going to make it up close and let's make sure there's no mid command grab so that, you know, these people don't feel cheated up close with, you know, getting grabbed?
Yeah, it's kind of scary because since MKX, they've been trying to make a more controlled game. So, are they going to continue this trend for the future games, or are they just going to scrap it and then go with a different vision?
Well, you know, Rio, to your point, I think part of the reason that happened is because, like, Injustice, I'm not sure if it was ever intended to be as defensive,
that different, right?
Yeah, of a game that it was, but because they changed the movement mechanics and because the walk was so slow, because mobility was what it was, it made a lot of keep away gameplay really strong. And I think that what they were thinking is, okay, listen, there were some people where this was polarizing for them because they're like, yo, I'm a Mortal Kombat player. What is this though? What are people walking back like the whole fight? You know, like, yeah. I want to get in there. I want to mix people. And so what they thought is, all right, so what we'll do is we'll make Injustice the like more defensive type. You know, obviously there's some characters that break that mold, right? Like Bane, Flash, whoever. But in general, overall, the meta will be more defensive, right? More characters that use this big space on the stage. And then when we make Mortal Kombat, that's going to be the game that's going to be hyper aggressive. It's going to be hella rush down, right? And so they were like, all right, we're bringing the rub back. We're giving everybody hella 50-50s. We're giving you canned 50-50s and strings. We're giving you hella plus frames on cancels and all this stuff. And so, you know, the offensive people play MK and the defensive people play Injustice, and it'll be cool. And what happened was a lot of people got pissed. At various points in MKX, people were like, what the hell is this? I can't move. I'm getting locked down. You know, they're knocking me down.
Oh boy, the memories on that game.
Right. They're already in my face. Like, they did this crazy corner carry and then ran up next to me, and, like, I can't get any room to breathe. And so I think the complaining around both games led them to say, all right, instead of making Injustice the super spaced out defensive game and MK the super, you know, in your face rush down, we're just going to try to mix them both together. And that's kind of like where we are now. And so getting back to your point and Tom's point, it's like, I kind of asked this question before, but like, what do people want? You know, do they want these games to play different and be more extreme in offense or defense or different archetypes? Or do they want to be able to do everything in every game and get this game where it's kind of in the middle of everything? And I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, Slayer brings up a good point earlier that I agreed with. MK11 is a good mix between defense and offense if you think about it, because a lot of the games before that have been kind of very polarized on one side. But this game, it seems like they're trying to equalize it as much as they can, but because of that, they have to sacrifice some character playstyles.
Because the thing is, extremes are actually exciting, but they also make people very salty.
That's true. Well, there's two things before. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, what are you gonna say, Tom?
I was going to say, to answer your question, because I want Slayer to answer it too. Honestly, what people want is kind of funny. What they want is, I want what I do well to be part of the game. And I want what you do well to be part of the game. Unless the archetype that makes you perform well is a problem for an archetype that I want to do. And then I don't want it anymore. So you put NRS in a bind because, to your point, Krim, you're like, well, you can't have it like this for whatever, and then say that they can't have stuff, whatever. You know, the unwilling to accept the, I guess, unintended consequence of diversity, so to speak.
Yeah, Tom makes a good point. What he says is true, because think about it. You love playing your grappler until you're up against a zoner. You love playing your zoner until you're up against an anti-zoner, and it's just a chain that keeps on going. So it makes so many people pissed. They're like, "This is dumb.
Yeah, you like.
I'm getting counterpicked by this."
Sorry.
You know, so I guess NRS in a way is trying to make it as even as possible, but that's not really solving the issue.
Yeah, you like playing a keep away character until you're playing a zoner, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm trying to keep him away, but he's zoning me. So now I got to go near him. It's like they don't like that natural type of progression. So yeah, I like Slayer stuff. Like Slayer, he's basically on this MK streets. He talks to people all the time. What does he think? You know, what people want.
Slayer, you there?
Yeah, was that directed to me?
Yeah, yes. Go ahead, please.
Oh,
What do you think? Just to reiterate.
no, I
what do you
heard the
think?
question.
Okay.
I heard the question. It was just the thing is, it's not about like we always know. Like yes, it's how people try to make the game mold it towards how they want to play, and that's how people end up being the best or really vibe with the game and coming on top. But at the end of the day, like it's how like it's intended to be played is like when we figure it out, that's how it will be. Like when Paulo, MKX, the original meta with like armors and armor launchers and all this stuff, and then the last version, how they made it to where the double only characters with two hitting are double special, double meter burn special moves were armor launching. It's just how they intend us. It's really just how it's Paulo's vision, dude. Like literally, and I feel like them not making the game too offensive or too defensive and just kind of having a balance has put us in like this this kind of like middle ground where we've kind of drowned out character archetypes because it's more of just like build a character, I may play Rain or I may play Sub-Zero, right, and I'm like Buffalo where I'm trying to forward two and whatnot, and or I might play Sub-Zero like Tom where I'm just like really just like kind of chill out and get my space. But you cannot have this middle ground that we're talking about with having shackles on us, because guess what? Now I want to with my character teleport like on some Cetrion shit, but why does my thing cost 2 bars? Or I want to be defensive, but why can't my Sub-Zero have a fucking floor puddle? So it's like you're picking and choosing, and I'm sorry, like we're acting like fucking spoiled brats like with the game, like, oh, why can't I have it? But dude, it's like obvious, like that's like giving a character only half the cast having a down 2. Half the cast is gonna be like, dog, where the fuck's my down 2 crushing blow? Like what?
Especially if it's
Like,
in
you're
the
limiting
game
me?
and you can't. Especially if it's in the game, but they're like you can't touch it, but you look at it, So it's.
So
one of
yeah,
those
I just
things
feel
where
like if you're limiting character archetypes, like you at least have to let the people build the archetype that they want to play, and whether it be giving people these characters help in a defensive manner by buffing their meter, how fast it comes back so they can break away, or doing it in an offensive manner so they can get meter faster. Because I'm sorry, dude, there's no reason why these characters who are hitting for pennies should be getting their offensive back the same way that Spawn does, and he's hitting for 50, dude. 60. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jackie's hitting for 40 unbreakable. But her shit's coming back the same as all these other characters, and no wonder. Dude, we both get our shit off and then we're in neutral, and my stuff's building back the same as yours, but it's worth way more.
You know what's so weird? It's almost like NRS is trying to make a fighting game for everybody else but the Mortal Kombat players in a weird way. Because if you think about it, they're making the game, supposed to be focused around neutral, footsies, this and that, more like this game. But it's the thing is, like, if we want to play Street Fighter, we'll play Street Fighter. If we want to play Tekken or Guilty Gear, we'll play those games. MK doesn't need to be like other fighting games. One thing I don't like is how for some reason we have these rules we need to follow. Like this character breaks rules game, this shouldn't be a thing. But why? Some of the most fun NRS games were games that didn't have rules. They didn't have these things set in stone that you had to follow. They were just whatever you got was what you got, and sometimes the meta ended up being crazy fun. And I kind of miss how NRS would just go with what they wanted to do instead of listening on how to make a good fighting game.
Right.
Yes, and if I may add to Rio's point, I agree 100%. One of the reasons I got into MK9 was because I could actually zone people. Like, I could actually play the gameplay style that I wanted to. Again, you guys know if you've been in the scene for too long, that doesn't. I did my fair share of bitching about Smoke for obvious reasons, but looking back at it now, and I've thought about this very, very, hard and long. Honestly, I'll fight Smoke. At least I can play however I want instead of this game. I'm sorry, but it's just the way I feel. I think the game is so incredibly watered down and so boring. It probably is the most boring meta I've ever seen ever. You know what?
Yeah.
I'll fight that 8-2 matchup against Smoke, whatever 7-3.
Yo, Dave, we know you're not even flawless blocking or playing a throw poke strike because you're not hitting from in pokes and shit. Like, dude, it's all good.
What's that?
Just kidding.
Yeah, he tried to go the Rio route. Dude,
just
he
happened?
took it out from Rio. He took it
Dave's
over.
like, dude, this meta is not. And I'm like, Dave, you haven't flawless
Oh,
blocked up
actually,
two-
Slayer, it's
three
perfect you
on
mentioned this.
reversal,
I
like,
have to, Slayer, I have to
to
ask
save
you.
your
This is a
life.
hot topic.
Well, wait, Rio,
Slayer,
before
Slayer, wait,
But
before you
let,
do that,
yeah, sorry.
Let Crimson get his.
I just want to cap this off by making one point, and that is that I think if we're going to do that, we need to level up our attitudes as a community. And here's the reason why. To give people context, back in the MK9 era, all the stuff that you guys are talking about was like a badge of honor. Yes,
Oh, man.
it made you salty. Yes, it was incredibly frustrating to play against. But if you were playing against that zoner and you were a restaurant character and you labbed every in and out, you pulled everything that you could pull out of that matchup. You grinded it. You lost 100-0, and then you came back and you lost 90-10, and then you came back. When you fought that out for a year and then you finally beat whatever archetype is that was giving you the most trouble, like that was like a badge of honor. Like you had to earn that, and people were proud of it. When Cabal destroyed people's characters and they labbed it to the point where if your Cabal wasn't on Rio's level, they could beat you. That was like a badge of honor. And so,
Yeah.
if we're gonna get back to the point where we have these archetypes that are, what would people consider dumb or annoying or frustrating to play against, we also need to level up as a community and stop trying to take everything out of the game that annoys people. Like the mid command grab thing is a perfect example of that. People never want to have to guess. They say, if I have to make a read on what you do on block, that's unfair to take it out of the game. And I think as long as we have that attitude, right, like this is not going to work. Because as soon as you put that stuff in, people are going to rage. So I just think if we're going to make the game more interesting by pushing the characters more to their individual personalities, then we got to level up our maturity as a scene and just be able to grind out the stuff that annoys us.
And I want to hint, before we go forward, I want to hint on Krim and Dave's point really quick. Like Krim said, to the mid-command grab, people wanted a more aggressive game, for example. So if you're a rushdown player, you're like, I want to be in your face. I want to rush you down. And then you're like, okay, to rush this guy down. And you're like, wait a minute. But when I rush him down, I go to block. He has a mid-command grab. That's no fair. And it's like, well, that's a consequence. If you want to rush down a grappler, they have a mid-command grab. So you might, and it's like, well, I want to rush down, but I don't want you to have that mind game when I have to block. Well, so it's like you want to do what you want to do, but this archetype can't exist because it's kind of annoying for me when I do get in. And to Dave's point, like as much as this game is infinitely more balanced than like a game like MK9, I could sit down and play Dave and play Rio, and Sub-Zero was not a good situation for Cabal or Freddy. But I did very well in those matchups because I accepted, I'm going to play Dave. It's going to be hard for me, but I know he's going to do what he's going to do, and I want to do what I want to do. And even though that archetype is his advantage for my character, the thing is, I want to find a way to do this, and he wants to find a way to stay out of that. And the same thing with Rio. And if I lose, I can accept it because I was able to do what I want to do and try to adjust my strategies, my skill set to what he's doing, and vice versa for the both of them. And even if it was a bad match, I was accepting of that because I'm still enjoying it. I'm still having a lot of fun. The 5-5s in MK11 is like you literally, it's almost like the winner of the 5-5 matchup is who stays awake and who didn't fall asleep first. Yeah, so just we don't like that. But to Crim's point, the alternative, people don't want that either, which I think does put NRS in like,
Tom, I think this is like my dad always used to say, son, everything in moderation. Like you can have, if you have a combo kicker, the combo kicker doesn't have to do 100% combos. I'm talking about Cyrex.
Yep.
The versatility kicker doesn't have to be like best at everything where nobody's even close, like Cabal, right? You don't have to have a good zone as Freddy. You don't. You can have a very good zoner. I don't know, maybe Dr. Fate in Injustice 2, for example.
Sure.
Like you can have these archetypes that are not so polarized that make the game at the highest level almost unplayable. Like,
yeah, the archetypes were over the top, but the point is we want those archetypes, just not as over the top. I feel like instead of just taking the archetypes and say, okay, let's reduce the power level of them, they say, you know what, we'll just get rid of the archetypes. And I think that's really what happened.
See, Injustice 2 kind of did that. They watered down the whole archetypes. They made everybody do what they do, but to a lesser extent. And I feel like people still didn't really like that. But I do want to ask Slayer this question. And I'm not doing this to be devil's advocate or anything.
Sure.
But because this is a hot topic question, it's been like circulating for the past couple months.
Lego.
Slayer, I want to ask you. So, do you think that floss blocking currently is too strong and needs to be toned down to be more fair? Because there's people floss blocking pokes you're getting launched. There's people floss blocking out of frame traps. There's people creating these mind games, forcing you into these things where you have to respond in a certain way. There's people floss blocking jump ins and taking that away from you. So what's your opinion? Do you think
it's to the extreme? It's even like you get a poke on hit and you have to even be weary about jailing somebody. But dude, in my opinion, like we finally have defensive options and people are mad about it. Back then, dude, Katana hit you with that 2-1 and I'm sorry, you were either armored launching, which we don't have now, or you were eating the back one, which is the plus frames. And if she had super, I'm sorry, you were getting fucking back one to super. And guess what? If you were on chip damage right then and there, you were there were so many situations where you were automatically fucked. But now it's like you can alter even people's jump in timings with falls block even if you don't have the meter. You can not take the chip damage. You can finally, not get instantly counter poked after it's not your turn. Like it's crazy, because you hit somebody with the poke, you can't even jail your stand one because they can launch you. But at the same right, it's like it's a beautiful throw poke strike. Like it's literally the test of mind versus mind. Like you can't even jail somebody with your plus frames because they might flaws block you. So at the end of the day, both of you are just stuck in neutral, and that's great. I think it's great.
Yeah, sort of in a way it sucks because floss blocking is one of the things I have fun with in this game. And to see that get taken away next patch or whatever, that would make the game even less fun for me. But what you say is true. Like floss blocking right now is one of the wild things that stands out. It's one of other games don't have stuff like that. It's one of the things that kind of makes MK11 Beats different game right now. So
and it's not like everybody just falls like, yo, oh yeah, he keeps falls blocking my poke when I check him after his negative frames. Well, you know what happens if you waited 1 extra second? He would have whiffed a stand 2 or jumped in there. You could have punished him. But guess what? Now you're waiting an extra second. Now you're waiting an extra
There's actually a layer.
I'm sorry. Like I don't mean to be so. That's just dishonest. Like people are complaining about the flawless block because the same way that armor people were complaining about armor and MKX because that's the way it's really used. It's not used.
It's better than armor in a lot of situations.
Yeah, it's better than armor because back in the day, if you were minus 30. You couldn't do armor because you were getting blown up. The activators were not long enough. The way the people are pissed, not necessarily me, I'm not even talking about myself. They're pissed because you can do a poke that's -3 and then you can flawless block into your launcher. That's the same reason we have been told in the past that armor had to go because it's used offensively. Now it's used offensively too, and we're told, shut up, accept it. Why?
It's not really fair to compare armor to flawless block because one of these takes a lot more skill than the other one.
I
It's more than
disagree.
just inputting a special.
And
I
you're putting
disagree.
yourself at risk. If you
I
just wait
disagree.
for a second,
Yeah,
you know
and
what's
there's also
happening if you
more. There's
flawless
more
block on me every
counterplay to
time?
flawless
I'm
blocking.
gonna dry jump
Yeah.
in on you and down 2 crushing blow or neutral duck and
Okay,
you know,
you guys
Yeah,
are making
Slayer,
different
yo,
points.
Slayer.
You guys are making different
One thing I
points.
noticed is there's actual counterplay to flawless blocking. People think that
Yes.
there's no way to like change up the timing or blow somebody up for it, but there's ways to do it to trick people into letting go block for a second or inputting a move. There's more to it,
Dude,
and that's why I
so
think
I was
it's
playing
not fair to
DJT.
compare it to MKX armor.
Check this out.
Okay.
I was playing DJT, right? And he was flawless blocking every fucking jump in to the point to where he wasn't even up 2ing or up 3ing, but I couldn't do like jump in 2 into 1-1 with Jackie, right? He would always just flawless block and get a quick poke. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude,
do
I
we
can't
do
jump in
this?
on this man, right?
Yeah,
And so
one thing is
And so check this out. I started jumping in. He would flawless block my jump 2, and then I started flawless blocking his poke and like up 3ing or trying to get it up 2 or something. But dude, that's the level that it gets to. Like that's
yeah,
great.
Slayer.
Okay.
That's great.
Nobody.
Slayer, no lie, but when you're playing against someone who knows how to flawless block, jumping in on them is hard.
Tom's
Like,
all
it makes
talking
you
about
think
flawless
like
blocking and talking
This
shit
is the
about it,
biggest bunch
dude,
of bullshit
Tom's
I've
not
ever
even
heard
hit
in my
confirming
entire
his fucking
life.
poke on hitter block or not. Tom's
Listen,
literally not even
can-
hit confirming his poke on hitter block, and this fool's talking about the fucking flawless block.
I hit confirm a lot of my pokes.
I haven't
Thank
seen
you very
Tom
much.
flawless block.
Sub-Zero. Well,
You haven't seen me
to
play
be
the
fair,
game.
Teleport to the
Sub-Zero.
fucking future, and I still haven't seen Tom flawless block.
You haven't,
be
you
fair,
haven't
though,
seen me play the
Slayer,
game in a while, and I flawless blocked
to
a lot
be-
when I played the game. Thank you very
What?
much.
To be fair, Slayer, Sub-Zero's one
Show
of
me the
the
clip.
Sub-Zero's one of the characters that's very hard to floss block against off of that one because he has so many ways to mix you up. It's like death trying to do it off a poke.
Yeah, but let me just say this.
So for certain characters, it works differently.
This is the
Like
most
Sub-Zero, I would
disingenuous
not try to floss
Hold on,
block after
this
his
is the
poke on
most
hit.
disingenuous shit I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Yes, let's do it, guys. It's
Let me just say
on.
this.
It's on.
Guys, audience, I want you to listen to the biggest bullshit you've ever heard. Flawless block. You just heard Rio and Slayer completely cover up all the ways that flawless block is bad by only pointing out where it should be acceptable. Like, no one's going to
Right.
disagree.
100%
Like,
right. 100%
hold on. No one is going to disagree. So we're talking about flawless block, and Slayer's like, hey, friend, hey, audience, don't you think you should be able to flawless block when somebody jumps in? They're like, hell yeah. Rio's like, hey, buddy, don't you think when somebody's pressuring you with plus frames and strings, don't you think you should be able to flawless block and get
Hey,
out?
so Tom, I want to ask you,
Hold on.
how would you nerf
Hold
flawless
on,
block and tone it
let
down?
me finish because I can't let this propaganda go.
Well, you didn't let Slayer finish.
I can't let this
Nah,
because
nah.
this is just
Go on.
disingenuous. So
Speak on that.
clearly, anyone listening is going to say, "Yeah, Rio and Slayer, you're right," but that's not what we're talking about. If you
No, people can have their own opinions.
if you ask somebody, "Hey, friend, when you're plus 1 million, should they be able to launch you?" They'll say, "Hell no." And Slayer's like, "Look, dog, if you're plus 1 million, hell yeah, you should get launched." Why, dog? The reason why you
I think you're not understanding what Slayer is saying, though. He's not saying that whenever you're plus $1 million, you instantly get launched. He's saying that there's a level of
you
counterplay
don't
to it.
deserve the goddamn right to launch anybody when
But
you're
here's the
minus 1
thing, though.
million.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is what makes NRS games fun and different. They don't follow the rules
There
like
is
Street
no
Fighter.
fun
We
and
have-
different. There needs to be a
Guys.
balance in fighting. No, hold on.
All right, so Tom, I want to ask you, how would you nerf flawless blocking? How would you
let
tone
me
it down?
just let me
Tom,
tell you.
Tom. Oh, no, I'm not, guys. I'm not interrupting you on my behalf.
This is
Believe
so
me.
dumb.
Tom, I agree with you. I just want to give, and because I promised Zyphox has joined us, I just want to give him his, the ability to speak.
Okay,
So
I just want to make
up,
this
guys?
one point because I don't
What's
want
up,
to.
Zyphox?
Go ahead.
Okay, in fighting games, you need to have two situations that are prevalent. Mortal Kombat 11 has defensive options because look, you need defensive options because you don't want a situation where you're knocked down, you can't do anything, you're being pressured, you can't do anything, you can't get out, you're stuck. So you need defensive options there. But fighting games also need situations where, look, man, I'm sorry. You took way too many liberties, you fucked up, and now you just got to hold this. And in a lot of look.
No,
as-
Tom. Now you have to hit them, and you still have to outthink them. It's not just knock them
I
down.
already
as a
outthought
Yeah,
you when I
no,
hit you. I
Shut up.
already
No, but
outthought
Dude,
you.
it's a fucking war.
no, I feel like
I
Tom's not
already
understanding what Slayer's saying.
outthought you.
No.
I feel like Tom's not understanding what Slayer's saying. He's saying that there's a mind game to it. It's not just free. You don't get free launch.
Yes,
There's no free
now
launch.
you don't just get to knock them down.
There's
What
no
mind
guaranteed
game?
launch.
What mind game do you deserve? You made a mistake. You overextended because here's what happened. You
So tell that to
overextended.
KI players. Tell that to KI players.
We're
But
not
Yeah,
playing
KI is literally the
KI.
game.
Even crazier.
We're
mechanic.
not playing
But this is the
KI.
thing.
Welcome to
But this is the
fighting
thing.
games, Tom.
People,
This is
Welcome
what
to
yeah,
fighting
Slayer,
games.
hold on.
Dude.
Slayer, you know,
The whole, but right now, so many people from this community are telling us to go play Guilty Gear, go play Street Fighter. Why?
There needs
If
to
the
be
game
a
is different-
situation. There needs
No,
to be
I'm not saying
situations
that.
where
I'm saying
you
that
made a
fighting games
mistake.
have these options out of it.
Yeah,
even after
there's
they don't
like
play
even
well.
No,
even
you don't.
Slayer.
No, the defensive
Slayer.
options. Hold on,
Breakers,
I
all
have to
this.
say this.
no, they
Slayer.
Defensive
Yo,
options
so-
in Mortal Kombat. You can say whatever you want after
Hold
this.
on one
The
second. Hold on one
defensive
second.
options. The problem with MK11's defensive options is sure they're great defensive options, but they also double as second and third chance mechanics. Yeah, look, if I'm being pressured, if somebody's jumping in at me, sure, you can't. Okay, I can flawless block, and that's really good. It's great they put it there, but it's
Slayer.
hold on. But it's also there to say, man, I really fucked up here. Now I'm minus 30. God, I don't want to have to hold this. I should. Thank God I have the option to launch you too. It doubles as a second and third chance comeback mechanic almost on top of being a defensive option. And there needs to be a clear separation. And all these goddamn new players don't like consequences. I got hit. I got poked. Why should that be
Tom,
so
Hold on,
bad?
I
Don't-
agree with
just
where's-
one second.
Where's my
One second. I want to
where's
ask Slayer
my-
Of
something.
course,
So-
Dave agrees with them. Dave has wanted you to have
Slayer.
multiple
No.
options in neutral his whole life.
Hold on.
Zyphox, come on, man.
Hold
Get
on.
in here.
Hold on. Thank you. Sorry, I was pulling off of slips. Anyways,
Wow, the shots, dude.
so
that's
yeah.
a cheap shot. That's a cheap shot. But go ahead.
It's a low shot.
My bad.
Anyways,
Kenny, you too.
I definitely agree with Tom here. Why? Because there has to be some type of rule to at what point you can take your turn back, right? You remember PEMDAS? Remember in math class, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide. Like there's like an order to things.
I do remember.
The very first thing that
Please don't make fighting games like math.
like-
I'll fall asleep.
if you can take your turn back frame one from losing it, that's the fucking issue, right? And the biggest issue is when you can do that shit on hit. Okay, you can literally mash your life
You're hearing this from another guy who hasn't flawless blocked to fucking save his
Yeah,
life.
okay, real quick. I want to say something with Slayer because I feel like there's a
literally
big.
he just came out from math class and started bringing up fucking the
Chill.
quadratic equation.
There's a
and
big
this-
You know why
disconnect
Slayer likes
here?
flawless block? Because he doesn't want to block it to begin with. He's like, why should
No,
I
there-
hold
no,
the pressure?
No, because
There's honestly
you know
a
why
big
I like
difference
it is
here.
because
It's a
my
huge
reactions are
disconnect.
fat, and I've worked and labbed it enough to be able to pull that shit off.
His
unlike you
reactions
guys,
are
and I'm
faster.
sorry that it's
Slayer.
that you
hold
guys
on.
don't have that
Listen to what
option.
Slayer.
listen to what Slayer just said.
Slayer, real quick.
Whoa.
There's a
Wait
huge
a minute,
disconnect
I
here
have to blow
because
this up. I've got to
you have
blow
to
this
think
up.
about it.
Slayer
Tom
said
is
this.
pissed because he has
Slayer.
a special movie he doesn't. It's called Flawless Block.
Slayer.
He
Slayer,
hasn't used that
lit-
shit
Sl-
Yeah, but no,
Slayer,
but
you
one second. I
literally
want to
said-
mention because
Slayer
Slayer brought
literally
up
said he would fight
Slayer brought up
somebody
KI
and
as a
make
good
nice points
reason,
in the game. So I
and
don't want to hear
one thing
Slayer.
I have to agree.
I don't want to hear Slayer. The thing is, the bottom line is what Slayer is saying. Listen to what he just said. Listen, I want to be able to attack. And
Hold on.
if you
Dude,
and,
but
hold on, listen to what he said.
you're not
He
listening
said,
to what Slayer's saying, though. You're not. We can't listen to what he's saying because you're not listening to
because
what
you
he's
guys
saying.
are talking. Because I
No,
want to
all
be
I'm
clear
saying
what
is
he's
that
saying.
Dave
Can
and Tom
Slayer
are pissed
look?
about
I
Flawless
real
Block
quick.
because
I want to
be
discuss the
clear.
point
I wanna
with
be
Slayer.
clear. I'm
Guys, you
understanding
gotta
But
let
I want to.
guys, you gotta
I
let-
want to discuss
gotta
the
let
I
point with
just want to
Slayer.
make sure I'm understanding him. I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Okay,
him.
but you need to let Slayer talk for a
guys,
second.
everybody, we gotta let each other talk.
Okay,
Because it's not gonna work.
Slayer.
I know, but I just want to make sure
Slayer.
I'm understanding what he's saying here. So
I feel like you're not, but Slayer. So one thing, you brought up KI, right? For that, you remember how we used to play? You remember how we used to play Melee all the time? That game has stuff
Melee.
like DIing. That game has stuff where you crouch cancel. You hit people for them hitting you, right? There's like a lot of options in the game.
a lot of
For MK11, the flawless blocking, it's kind of like that little element. You know, it's like a new thing to MK.
It's
Yeah,
like
and I feel like there's a
finally have
huge
something
issue
like
here
that separates
because-
like our shit.
Exactly,
Slayer
and
said
because
we
you
finally
and I
have a way
have played.
to escape when we get hit.
No, but the
That's what he
point
literally
is because
said.
Slayer.
Oh, God.
No, you're not understanding. The point is because Slayer and I have played games like that, we kind of understand the mind game behind it. But to like someone like Dave, it's like a brand new mechanic, right? He's like, "What is this? I've never had to
What
deal with
Slayer
that."
said,
But
skill,
this,
bro.
he
It's
wants
this
to be
literally
able to
goes.
attack
can
you.
learn it,
No,
like,
this
it's
is
a
bullshit.
beautiful
Slayer,
Yeah, but this
Slayer-
goes to
no.
literally textbook
No.
things. Like
No.
fighting games shouldn't have these rules you need to follow.
Exactly.
Fighting
Tom,
games
you're
need to be
trying
more
take away one of the
creative.
skill gaps, like dude,
No,
I'm sorry.
They need to
skill
be-
gap.
yeah, they need to
You
be more
don't- his-
creative.
Slayer,
Do it.
Slayer doesn't like to block anything ever. So
Tom,
what's the,
so why aren't you using it?
So here's what's going on. So here's what Slayer is saying. He
Oh
wants
my
to be
God.
Slayer wants to be able to attack,
I-
and if he hold
Tom doesn't understand what Slayer's saying, though.
I know
you're
what he's saying.
completely overlooking his
He's
point.
saying, look, he's saying I want to be able to attack, and If
No, but dude, no. It's not attacking. Slayer saying he has good defense in mind games. It's favoring his defense in mind games against players. He's not talking about offense.
No, it doesn't. It favors the offensive player. What he's saying, no, what he's
flawless
saying,
blocking isn't just offense.
God,
it's also for defense.
You guys can try to pull the wool over people all you want, but I am way too old and
What?
way too
There's-
experienced.
no, we're
to
not
hear this
trying to do
bullshit
anything.
from you guys. What Slayer is saying is he wants to be able to attack, and
No, Slayer isn't saying he just wants to mash and attack. That's not what he's saying at all.
They'll never
You're not
let me
listening
finish
to
this
him.
because they know where it's going. They'll
Look,
never.
no,
let me
you're-
finish
let me
it,
wrap
so-
up.
You're not listening to
Let me wrap
Slayer.
up the point. Let me wrap up the point.
Slayer, go ahead.
Look,
Go ahead.
all I want in these games is to have like these mechanics that separate the like how back then the Cabal players like
The skill gap.
Cabal was ridiculous, but not everybody could execute the dash cancels and the instant air gas blast.
Yeah, there
Same
was a
thing
skill
with
gap.
a lot of other little things, but in this game, that's like one of the things that we have that's like it's actually great because it's a little 3-frame window where if you guess it and you will put yourself at risk if you fuck it up, you'll just get a neutral jump or a button. And dude, it's a great thing. It's one of those things that just separates like and really gives you that feeling of like, oh shit, like that was fucking good.
Slayer,
we don't have that.
Slayer.
Exactly.
Slayer,
Flawless
Slayer.
blocking is one of
Hold on,
the
hold on.
flawless blocking is one of the
This is
small
so
skill gaps
easy,
in the
Tom.
game.
Let me finish.
Go
Let me
ahead.
finish.
Let him
So
finish.
melee, right? Melee. They have
Melee.
from the ledge, like you can do the perfect fucking ledge dash. There's shield dropping. There's also like a flawless
There's so
blocking
much
type
skill
thing,
gap stuff in
crouch
the game.
canceling.
Yep.
Like there's a lot
Yep.
of little things that at the top level really separate the top level players from the rest.
Yep.
And we finally have one little thing, and because your ass can't fucking execute it because you're not fast enough, like you're trying to take it out from the rest of us.
Wait,
Yeah, the thing is,
Slayer.
why water the game down and remove one of the few skill gap things in the game? Like, it's honestly gonna suck if they get rid of flawless blocking and really tone it down to the point where it's not worth
Oh,
learning.
man.
Wait a minute.
This is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Because
Tom.
I don't know why Slayer's not bullshitting.
I want you
dude.
to go, Dave, but while
He's
this
speaking
is
his
fresh, I
opinion.
have to say this.
Yeah, but you need to know that Slayer's speaking his opinion. Though he's not trying to BS you.
No, I am not. I like flawless blocking. I think it
Okay.
should stay in the game. So of course they're going to. You see, you want it removed. You old heads want.
No.
it removed,
I asked
and
you
that's
how would you
progressive
nerf it. I didn't.
No, what I'm saying is,
Tom, I asked you earlier. What is your solution to
hold
nerf
on.
it? I didn't say.
I'm going to give it to you now. Flawless blocking should stay in the game. But what Slayer is saying is, it's really cool, right? Because I can attack, and if I'm wrong and you poke me,
Oh my god, he's not saying just attack.
Guys,
Tom,
shut
Tom,
the
you're
fuck
making
up, because I'm not gonna stop talking until I can say this.
but Tom, you have to look. You made a point. You're saying Slayer made a point that he didn't make. That's the whole point. I'm trying to say. He didn't say he likes it for attack.
Let him
He
finish
says
his
he's
point.
talking about the
I
whole
can't even
defensive
finish your
part,
point.
the
Finish
flawless
your point,
blocking part.
please.
I can't because Rio doesn't like the point that I'm
Guys,
making.
No,
stop
but-
interrupting him. Let him finish.
No,
his
he's
point.
putting words in Slayer's mouth. He's saying he likes flawless block just to
Rio,
attack.
we
Slayer
got-
didn't say
No,
that.
you won't let me finish what I'm saying. You only
All right,
stop me
what
at attack.
is the time? Let's let Tom finish. Go ahead.
What I'm
let him
saying,
finish.
what I'm
Thank
saying
you.
is, I like all the ways that flawless block is used. But what one of the instances that Slayer is talking about is, look, I want to go on the offensive. You poke me, and even though it's your turn, why should it be your turn? If I got the reactions, why shouldn't I be able to punish you by launching you? Because I got the reads, I got the reactions. What I'm saying is, you don't deserve to attack. Then when I poke and I take my turn back, the mind game is, it's your turn. You're plus 15, but you don't know. I might have.
That's not what Slayer's saying. You have it the other way around. What Slayer is saying that is when players poke him, he likes being able to have that defense element, not when he's attacking and mashing on people. It's the other way
when
around.
they poke. So
that's what you're not understanding.
So what Slayer's saying is, when they make the read and they poke me, they're at advantage. I want to be
Tom,
able to make.
Again,
we have a layer.
there are no rules in
because
fighting
I
games,
can
man.
flawless
In your
block
head, you
poke,
have these
and
rules.
now, if you bait my flawless block, you can also punish me for it. We have another layer now.
Give a shit.
Yes,
when
that's
you're
what
minus
Slayer's
15,
saying.
you have no right to launch me. You're
Tom,
minus.
But says who? Who says you have no right? What rules?
Guys.
What rule books to fighting games? What is this?
Rio
My
and Tom.
God.
What do you mean you
Would
have
guys
no
stop
right?
for a moment?
The offensive player's mindset. I'm
Well,
minus
these
15.
arguments are
Why
ridiculous
shouldn't I be
because
able to
apparently
launch
there's a rule book that we need to
Fucking
follow when it comes to
Guys,
fighting
okay,
games. What's the
guys.
rule book?
Stop.
Guys,
You gotta
guys,
stop.
let
You
Dave
gotta
speak.
stop.
Let
You
Dave
gotta
speak.
stop. Okay, let me.
joke?
Tom, you're gonna like this. Slayer. I respect your opinion on the flawless block. It's fair enough. But you're the same bitch who's gonna come to my house while driving 2,000 miles away and bitch about a game that has literally no zoning, and then you're gonna bitch about the zoning. So you're okay with the flawless block requiring skill. But when Tom are saying, you know what, can we also have the zoning and defense require more skill? No, you're not cool with that. Why not?
Slayer told me he would kill himself before the ice clone gets put back in Mortal Kombat. Yet he
Exactly.
wants to be able to flawless
You're the
block. Get the
same
fuck
guy.
out of here,
You're
man.
the same guy. I'm sorry. You're a rushdown fool. I don't take care. Anything you say about
Oh,
zoning,
no.
I'm
Team
sorry.
Zoner has united.
That's
Tom
right.
and Dave have
Team
never
Zoner.
wanted us to
No,
have
No.
defensive
no,
options.
it's not just.
Tom and Dave have never wanted us to have they just wanted them to
You
be able
can
to
have as
run
many
away and put
defensive
shit in front of
options as
you
you
all
want. You can
day.
have the rush down that you want. I just
You
need
can have
one
all
thing.
that.
No, if you
Tom
could
needs
never
one
reach
thing,
Tom and
but
Dave,
it's not in the game.
look. At the start of the match, if it could say fight and then you never even get close to Tom or Dave and still lose, that's the match they want.
No, I
I'm
don't
sorry,
care. I
guys.
don't care. You can do whatever you want. All I'm saying is, I like flawless blocking. In my opinion, you should not be able to flawless block out of hit stun. Period. That's the fix I would do. You can flawless block anytime you want, except when you've been hit.
Sure, and that's a totally fair opinion to have. But to say that these are the rules of fighting games, that
Those
shouldn't
are
be
the rules of
Yeah.
fighting games.
No,
When you
No,
get
there
hit
are
and
no
you're
rules for
minus
fighting.
30, you can't.
Okay,
Tom,
wait,
if
wait.
fighting games had rules, they would all be very boring
I have
because they would all play the
two
same under the same rules.
Let Crimson say his piece, please.
I
Crimson, now
have
it's your turn. Go
2
ahead.
questions before we wrap it up, and I want to make sure
Thank
that I
you.
can get through both of them. So
Thank you.
the first is, let's just look at it just totally objectively. Are there mechanics in fighting games on a whole where even though you've hit someone or you're on offense, right, they're being comboed or they're
In like plus
hit
50
stun,
pressure.
are there mechanics where you can somehow turn that back around on them
Not
and
in
attack them?
traditional.
Yes.
Not in traditional
Yes.
fighting games. No. Not in
Traditional.
What are
Oh, he
traditional
said
fighting
fighting
games?
games, not okay. What is a traditional fighting game?
Tekken,
Explain
Street
that.
Fighter are
Like-
virtual fighter.
Okay, so you're saying MK should be like Tekken and Street Fighter.
What?
I'm the opposite. I want
They
MK
bring
to be
up
its own
Brawl
thing.
and whatever,
What
and now
are
we're
you? Why are
bring
you
up-
switching the
they bring up-
argument? Why are you
You
switching
know what
the
I want?
argument?
I want
No,
more
no, I'm
technical
saying.
shit. I want
Here's
other
the
shit
thing.
to do.
Crimson
I want
didn't say
skill
traditional
gaps.
fighting games. He said fighting games, right? Crimson, did you mean fighting games or specific only fighting games?
I
Like
mean,
up to?
fighting games on the whole, since we know that both
That's
Injustice
fair. I
and
mean,
MK have
let's
taken
talk
mechanics
I
from-
want Zyphox to talk because I'm not going to have him be silent this podcast and we drown him out. Let him talk.
Zyphox, do you think fighting games should have a rule set and they should all follow the same thing?
Zyphox, let him go. Just let him go.
Well, think about how you categorize really anything in life. Everything is only really divided and separated into categories by us, right? I'm not trying to go like deep brain or anything here, but what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
go
say
ahead if you
is
need to.
that we're gonna say this is a video game. What type of video game is it? It's a 2D fighting game. Okay? In 2D fighting games, what happens in 2D fighting games? Oh, okay. This shit happens. And then you introduce something kind of like another dimension. And now it's a 3D fighting game. We have now 2 different fighting games. The fighting game where I am a 2D fighting game, and I added another element like flawless block, where basically in this fighting game, I have my turn, and if my turn ends, there's another chance. It's almost like a jackpot or some, not even jackpot really. You can do it skillfully. Another chance that I can get my turn back in one instance, and almost every instance after that on block or on hit. And now you've introduced a different fighting game. You've introduced a different type. I agree with Rio and Slayer in that it's good to have a diverse way of fighting, have different type of fighting games. KI is another game like this, right? I like that aspect, but the quote unquote, does this break the rules of a fighting game? I say yes, it does, because there's no clear, like, defined time, in my opinion, where a turn ends. That's it.
Here's my
And
second.
your point,
yeah.
I play KI, so I'll tell you this. I helped work.
If
I
fighting
helped
games
work-
had rules, games like MK9 and Justice 1 wouldn't
Okay,
even exist, by
Dave,
the way.
before I say this, Dave, can you please tell the audience at home who brought up Killer Instinct, just so they know it wasn't me. It was Rio and Slayer.
No,
correct?
Slayer brought it up.
Okay,
I didn't.
I
bring
wanted
it
to
up.
say
Slayer
one
did.
more thing before you.
Okay,
Sorry.
please.
One more thing. This issue is the same thing, but in reverse for breakaways, or not even in reverse, but it's the same concept. Should I, at some point in time, be doing a combo where if someone like guesses that I'm going to complete this combo and do my ender, kind of like KI, right? They should be able to then take and they should be able to full combo punish me in at some point, right? And that's when you fall from the breakaway and they're still in the animation. You wake up, they're right in front of you, punishable death. Is that something that we should allow as a fighting game? Do these like?
It depends. Well, first we have to discuss what are the rules of fighting games first before we talk about if it's fair or not. What are the rule? What is the rule book?
And there is no rule book.
It's
we
not
make
so
up the
much
rule
about
book.
a rule. It's not so much about a rule. But the problem is, I love flawless blocking. Because I think it's a good way to combat certain things like abusable. It's a way that you can allow jumping to be the way it is, even though it's a problem. Flawless blocking makes it more bearable to where you're not helpless in certain situations, and I like that. The problem I don't like things that double as the problem is to skill gap does not mean more chances for the player who made mistakes. That bridges the skill gap as opposed to widen it. So skill gap would be there's somebody made a clear mistake, and sometimes there are minor and major mistakes. When you're in a situation where you're minus 30, minus 40, that is a major mistake. It is your fault. You got hit. You put yourself in that situation. That player made the right, they already outplayed you. And then they go to follow up with their reward. I outplayed you. Now I'm going to be rewarded for my correct decisions. And now you're saying, well, I also should have the right, even though I've been hit and I'm minus 30, to have a launcher on deck just in case I want to outplay you again. There needs to be a certain situation in which, I'm sorry, man, look, you made a mistake. I know, yeah, sure, man. We don't want to, why should we have to hold this? But that needs to be present.
The problem is you're not explaining the whole scope of things because, yeah, you're putting it in one certain way, but what about other matchups that other people have to play? Like when you're playing against Fujin, you get hit from half screen, he puts you in a +8 race stand in the corner. I shouldn't have an option to false block out of that because for some rule. No, but the point is, if Fujin hit me from half screen for attempting to play, this game has no neutral like you claim, then should I not have had the option to be able to not play the game like the Fujin just did to me?
No.
Shouldn't it go both ways?
No.
Tom just pretty much wants a game where we all have the same fucking length on all of our moves and have the same options.
No.
That would be boring.
What I'm saying is when you're minus 50...
Tom, you walk into the ice clone with these arguments, just like I told you privately, constantly with these.
Boring, Tom.
They want to be
we want more of that.
Slayer wants to be minus 50 and be able to launch.
Tom, if characters are not playing the game against us, why can we not play the game against them?
Tom, hold on,
Go
Tom.
ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
It's very simple. You walk into the ice clone because you're being bombarded by ignorant arguments. Let them have their flawless block. The argument that you should be making is, why can't I have my ice clone? Why can't I have my defensive play? They don't want that. Tom, they don't want you to play defensively because they know they're going to lose. You do realize that, right? They don't give a shit about.
Well, the reason why Tom can't have his ice clone is because did Tom not take a part in taking away some characters from us? Like, look, I can't even play Aaron anymore.
I didn't take Aaron away from
the nerfs he got first. Tom, you made videos saying Aaron need to get nerfed. Come on,
Okay.
dude. So the thing is, if you got my character nerfed, why should you have your characters back? Come on, it goes both ways here.
No Aaron Black video. I never made one.
All right, okay, Tom. So apparently you never say anything about Aaron, but my point still stands. If you take away our characters, why should we give you your characters?
I didn't take away any of your character.
Guys,
can I ask my?
Ask the last question.
Yeah,
I'm going to give it 10 more minutes. I've been promised that we're going to follow the time frame. Crimson, I respect you for respecting it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we need to wrap up soon, but I just want to say to kind of bring this topic to a close, and we can talk about it maybe more in an upcoming podcast, like what the rules of fighting games are or should be.
No,
right?
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
But
people, I can't talk about it.
Tom, let him
speak, please. The question I want to ask to wrap this up is, regardless of the fact that being able to flawless block out of super negative frames might be controversial, can we all agree that this is a nuanced thing where it's not that flawless blocking on the whole should be ripped out of the game because it's bad? Right? Can we at least agree on that point? That overall,
if you're a new NRS player, then yeah. But if you played games like MK9 or MK vs DC where you got full comboed for using breaker some characters, then to you it's like, okay, I've dealt with something.
Let's use fighting games that actually matter. Like let's use.
Right, so those games back then didn't matter. They don't count.
Let's use fighting games like Tekken, like Street Fighter, like Virtua Fighter.
Dave, that's very elitist because the fact that this is the thing. Like to say NRS games back then didn't matter and were relevant, we need to talk about Street Fighter and Tekken. Like, come on, dude, that's really toxic.
Wait, Dave just said Smash and anime don't matter.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Smash does matter. I'm saying the anime game.
Well, Smash has same elements like that too. So your point. My point still stands.
I can go back to Sega Genesis and list of fucking fighting and they probably break some rules. Am I going to use that as an example to have?
Okay, Sure, if you want to defend that, but the whole point is what I don't understand is why
This is literally
why
the
do we
definition of devil's
No.
advocate.
All right,
Again,
everybody
no,
get
there's
final
no devil's
statements.
advocate. The
Everybody
point,
get- everybody
what is
get-
devil's advocate is saying that we need rules for fighting games.
Okay,
That's devil's
everybody
Tom,
get
advocate.
a
you're
final
old.
statement on this.
Tom, you're old enough. Do you want to list some Sega Genesis fighting that you played back in the day that you want to use an example
There
as
are
to
plenty
why?
of them. There are plenty of
I don't
Dave's
know.
completely missing the point.
cares?
Dave's completely missing the point.
cares?
He breaks every
Power
rule.
Slayer, they're completely missing your point when you brought up KI
Tournament
and Smash
fighters,
Melee.
what is that? Ninja tournament fighters. I mean, you can go all. It's ridiculous.
Sure, but you just said games like MK9 don't matter, so why should those games matter?
said MK9
You're
doesn't
not being
matter.
consistent.
MK9
here.
was played a lot. What are you
Listen,
talking-
No, but you just said this like 5 minutes ago. That those games didn't
everybody
matter.
just say their last piece on this because we're gonna go over.
Well, how about this? I'm gonna let's have Slayer wrap
Let's
it
let
up.
Slayer have the last word.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Slayer,
feel
last
like
word.
I wanna-
Alright.
And
I'll
look,
start off,
before-
I'll
right
start off
before-
with the last thing I'm gonna say on this, and then
Wait, hold on.
Right
Wait,
before we
just
do
one second.
that-
Crimson
do
wants to
that,
say something for Slayer. Good.
I just want to say that this has been a great discussion. I'm glad we talked about all this stuff, and it's been fun.
Hell yeah, it has been, man. I've missed you guys so much.
It
I
has,
could
yeah,
argue
for
with you
sure.
guys forever.
I love breaking down details and really getting into like what is good. What that stuff is always fun to talk about.
listen,
well, go ahead, Tom, and then we'll give
Again,
Slayer the last word.
I agree. Flawless blocking is a great idea. I applaud them for always trying to push the envelope and try new things. And if two of my co-hosts believe that out of minus 100 hits them, they should be able to launch me, then I will agree.
You're putting in a very
fuck.
specific way to paint. I'm not. That's we're not arguing that we like false block for that one reason.
Rio,
Then
you're
I will agree to disagree. And
No,
that's
but what I'm saying is there's many
Alright.
different reasons. There's many different elements to false block.
Rio.
It's not just using it to get out of offense, you know.
Rio, let it.
No, what I'm saying is I don't only like false block to launch at a plus
I
100. That's not.
And I also like armor as a defensive tool. You got it nerfed in MKX because you're crying, but that's another story. Okay.
Yeah, well, if I got armor nerfed, Tom got Aaron nerfed. I mean, it goes both ways, right?
Let's
let's
let
let
Slayer
it goes both
Slayer
ways.
Give the
Yeah,
last word, and we can get the
we can pick it up some other time. Yeah.
That's right. Thank you, Crimson. Thank you, Crimson. I'm sorry, Slayer. Go ahead. Last word.
Alright, yeah, so first
Anything?
off,
That's right. Anything you want to talk about, and please let not take any cheap shots at the Tom to get him started.
no worries. Look, so first off, thanks for having me, guys. Man, I've missed you guys. I could argue with you guys forever about this shit. I love it, and it's really not argument; it's discussion. And dude, I like thinking shit out with you guys. It's been a while, so make sure to have me back, man. And even if we have to do it earlier, so we can stay a little bit later, like let's do that, because yeah, let's not be pressed for time at all.
Yeah,
Let's just
it was a pleasure,
chill it.
dude.
But as far as everything we talked about, man, I feel like a hella love it, man. You guys are just as passionate about this shit as when we first got into it. You know, lives have changed, and of course, as much time we can put into it has changed, and the scene has changed, and we've changed as people. But bro, MK brought us together, and check it out. All these years later, dude, we're still here talking about it. So, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to like the fucking scene, what it is nowadays. The MF family with the stream. It's been mind blowing. Honestly, I still can't believe it sometimes. And yeah, Lord Nap and all the kings of the fucking stream. You guys know who you guys are. Shout out to you guys. And thank you guys, man, for having me. It really it brings me back to like the good old days when we were just playing for fun and really discussing this shit. You know, for nothing, just because we really cared about the game and progressing it and potentially being the best at it. So I love you guys, man, and thank you guys for everything. Seriously.
Well, on that note, Slayer, just like what was it, 6-7 years ago when you came and played us at MKX, we were salty, but we still had a drink. Cheers again, my friend. I'm down to do it anytime.
Dave takes the last shot. Unbelievable.
That's the way I like to end. I want to thank my co-host Crimson, Rio, Tom Brady, and Zyphox. Thank you so much, and especially our special guest, Slayer, MFSlayer on Twitter, MF_Slayer on Twitch. Please subscribe. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Hey, hell